Now, one of the areas that the government says it's going to accord fresh attention to is security, and we've had a couple of terrorist attacks in the country in the past 1 year, and this is taking a toll on our economy, isn't it, Nancy?
Absolutely, and of course this is one of the conversations that has to be had. What impact is the whole security situation having on the economy? We're going to look at that right now. Of course, this was a big issue in the President's Madaraka Day speech, and he talked about CCTV cameras being introduced in the major cities and towns. He also talked about recruiting 10,000 more police officers. Now, for people who are doing business, and of course for all of us, the economy is a very fragile thing, and of course security has to that. Let's see how. Now, to see the impacts that the whole security situation with regard to terrorism has on this economy, we'll go back to the year 1998 and do a bit of history. Now, the U.S. bombing, the U.S. embassy bombing rather, led to a 7% fall in tourism numbers. But let's compare this with the election violence that did happen back in 2007. 27% was the fall in tourism numbers there. So a huge difference. And actually studies have shown that political unrest causes more problems with tourism than terrorism actually does. Apparently people do bounce back a lot quicker after terrorism incidents than they do after political unrest. And there was an 18% fall in tourism receipts as well after the election violence, which was a lot more than what happened with the terrorist bombing in 1998. Let's take a look at the effects of Westgate. After the Westgate incident, the Kenyan shilling did not change much. It actually only barely changed, and it was at 87.25. The stock market was affected, but it did lose just 0.3%. So not earth-shattering, these numbers. There definitely was an impact in terms of the economy, but it wasn't that bad. Let's move forward now and take a look at what the Westgate attack was predicted to have done. It is estimated that it's shaved off 0.5 points off Kenya's economic growth in 2013. So there definitely was an impact there in terms of how the country is moving forward. Also, it has been shown that terrorist attacks here do lead to significantly lower stock returns at the Nairobi Stock Exchange. So that has to be considered as well. And when we look back at the last few months, especially the month of May, we had more than 4 attacks in that same month. About 16 people dying. Terrible situation, of course. And this did lead to the Kenya shilling falling to a 9-month low, the lowest it had been in 9 months. That happened in May. And we move forward again and see what happened to the businesses as well, because they are affected too. We all remember Westgate. Nakumatt actually lost 1/10 of its revenue in Westgate. This was definitely one of its biggest earners, and they make about $500 million a year. So this is about $50 million in losses for Nakumatt. And businesses in Eastleigh have also been affected. The situation there a few months ago was quite difficult. It is estimated that almost half the businesses were operating at less than 20% of what they should be doing. Also, the property market in Eastleigh was severely affected. Now, we've had reports that a house that used to be rented for 15,000 shillings had gone down to as low as 10,000 shillings. Now, if you're a business owner paying a mortgage on that property, that's going to be difficult. Also, there were some instances where people were moving out. We did see a report where one apartment with about 22 houses in it had 1/4 of the residents moving out. That is definitely a severe blow, especially if you're paying a mortgage on that property. And it is predicted that in Eastleigh there will be a loss of more than 70% in sales because of the insecurity in that area. And for an area that makes quite a bit of money every month, that's quite a blow. Also, tourism is one of the big areas that has been affected by security, and we've seen this. We've seen travel warnings being issued and the number of tourist arrivals going down. Well, the Kenya tourism industry is a big deal. It accounts for 11.9% of GDP. So more than every 10 out of 100 shillings that the government makes is coming from tourism. It employs more than 600,000 people. That's a large number. Now let's take a look at what happened in 2013 after Westgate. Tourism arrivals dropped by 16%. So it's taking a big chunk out of our 11.9% GDP. Also, what happened at the Kenyan coast has been rather drastic because bookings are down to 15% in some hotels, and yet a hotel needs 60 to 70% in order to break even. More than 3,000 employees have been let go this year alone in the tourism industry, and it's estimated that travel warnings could cost this country 4.9 billion shillings in revenue. So the impact is still quite far-reaching. But it's not all doom and gloom. The Tourist Board plans to spend 200 million shillings to market the country, and they're doing this majorly online. They have some online campaigns. This will improve the SEO, or the search engine optimization, in terms of when you do a Google search for Kenya, hopefully the first thing that pops up will not be news about a terrorist attack, but news about the great places you can visit in the country. The government also aims to attract about 1 million Chinese tourists to the country per year. At the moment, there's about 45,000 coming in every year. So hopefully these measures will do something to mitigate the effects that terror has had on this economy and in particular on tourism. So Wilson, the question is, will this be enough?